Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Astrology News Report, an alternate view of world events as seen through the lens of Vedic astrology, presented by yours truly, Ron Berger. Today is November 2nd, 2014. So let's take a look at the week that was, and how the planets' positions in the zodiac matched up with the past week's events. Well, there is a lot going on in the zodiac, and likewise here on Earth. Here are a few examples of how things have been manifesting lately. As outlined in last week's show, we now have Mars, the planet of violence, in a square aspect with Uranus, the planet of sudden unexpected events. This rather volatile combination manifests as sudden unexpected violence. And last week, there were some obvious examples. A 14 stories tall rocket carrying a cargo ship bound for the International Space Station blasted off from its Virginia seaside launch pad last Tuesday at 6:22 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It subsequently exploded in a huge fireball moments later. Here's the chart of the event. The moon often acts as the role of the catalyst for a planetary setup, and indeed, the moon was adding its energy to the Mars side of the equation when the event occurred. Then on Friday, another spaceship had a mishap. Virgin Galactic Company's Spaceship Two crashed to the ground while in the midst of a test flight over the California desert. One pilot was killed, the other suffered severe injuries. On the other side of the world, on Wednesday, heavy rains triggered a mudslide in Sri Lanka, burying over 100 people. Note that Uranus is in Pisces, a water sign, so the unexpected violence, which continues for the next several weeks, these events are likely to be connected with the weather or bodies of water. Saturn is the planet of confinement, punishment, and penalties. Scorpio is the sign of toxicity, poisons, and infections. Put them together and you get quarantine due to infection. Saturn hadn't made it into Scorpio quite yet, and already last week we got a taste of what we are in for. Governor Christie of New Jersey and Governor Cuomo of New York jointly issued a proclamation that any health care workers returning from treating Ebola patients in West Africa would be quarantined, involuntarily if necessary, until they were proven free of Ebola. Even more disturbing is what we see in the USA chart, where the Saturn in Scorpio setup is in the 12th house, which is the house of confinement, prisons, punishments, and so on. So this could be just the opening act. Sounds like the totalitarian state maybe just around the corner for the United States. Okay, getting back to the Mars transit in Sagittarius, which puts it in the USA chart's first house, we see that Mars, from this position, is aiming its combative energy directly at the 7th house of partner countries. There was a bit of a blow-up between the U.S. and Israel last week when someone, they won't say who, highly placed in the Obama administration, criticized Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, saying he was, quote, a chicken shit. Whoa. Another ongoing planetary pattern is the situation with Jupiter, the planet of morals, ethics, and beliefs. Jupiter is also the planet of laws. Jupiter now represents the energy of 3 malefic planets transiting in its signs. Mars contributes aggression and challenge. Uranus contributes the energy of freedom, rebellion, and individualism. And K2 adds the element of idealism, dissatisfaction, and change. Last week, the conflict between ethics, freedom, laws, and idealism was in the headlines in the form of a nurse, Kaci Hickox, who, having returned from caring for Ebola victims in Africa, challenged a governor's order to remain under quarantine in her house, opting instead to go for a bike ride with her boyfriend. The governor of Maine, needing to look tough for the upcoming elections, took umbrage that one of his subjects should defy his orders, and it looked like legal fisticuffs would soon ensue. It took a judge to come up with a compromise. Miss Hickox could go out, so long as she maintained a 3-foot clearance between herself and other members of our species. On Thursday last week, October 30th, Mercury was exactly conjunct Rahu, while simultaneously being influenced by Uranus, indicating some unusual, unexpected news. Mercury is the planet of information, communications, explanations, and reasons. Apple CEO Tim Cook took this opportunity to announce that he is gay, making him the most prominent American CEO to come out of the closet. And, returning for a moment to another ongoing pattern in the heavens, the Uranus conjunct K2 combination, the planet of rebellion joining forces with the significator of idealism and past karma, augmented by the trine aspect of Jupiter, the planet of beliefs, optimism, and truth. The country of Burkina Faso, who had a revolution of sorts last week. The president, Blaise Compaoré, proposed that he should have yet another term of office, after being prez for 27 years. Well, this sent the population into full-scale revolt, and he finally had to give in, and resigned, and fled the country, whereupon a military guy took over. Okay, that'll do it for this week's Review of the Week. You can keep up with daily astrological developments and contribute your own thoughts by following me on Twitter at Astro News Report.